Blank, I am so excited that we have Sam Hatmaker, who was a product manager at ToyBiz beginning in 2001.
Right at the dawn of Marvel Legends. Like I and he's like a figure from like your history with Marvel, and therefore he's like a figure in like our origin story since you started working there right as we were like MySpace friends. I'm so excited. I'm really looking forward to finally having a conversation with this guy.
Yeah, well, for those at home who don't know, Flink and I met talking on the Foosh, and then we transitioned into like IRL friends, as IRL as you can be, in 2005, talking about Legends, but we were MySpace friends. And so I would go to Marvel and I would report back to Flink and be like, oh my God, they have this, and that. And one of the people there was Sam Hatmaker. And he was such a character. He was so warm, so welcoming. And 20 years later, well, not 20 years, but like 16 years later, we have him on Power of X-Men today.
Coming full circle, full circle.
Full circle. And we have so many like juicy little tidbits. We talk about, female figures at the time, how they were packed and distributed. We talk about the chase figures. We talk about some unreleased things that he had in his house. It's just such a wonderful interview. But since I've been moving and you've been busy with the world's most awesome job, we haven't had a chance to talk about the Engine of Vengeance, HasLab not getting funded, in particular, Madeline Pryor not
I am
making
going
it.
to need a moment of silence from the fan community for our fallen Goblin Queen.
Wait, what did you
Okay,
call
but seriously,
her? Wait,
our
what did you call her?
fallen Goblin
Oh,
Queen.
Goblin Queen. I thought you said Falcon Queen. I was like, what? Oh my God.
What?
Is that what
Moment
we're
of
going to call
silence
her?
has ended. Like,
Silence has
no,
ended. Okay,
yeah,
okay,
no.
go.
I mean, listen. I knew from the get, as somebody who has followed, I backed the two failed Star Wars HasLab campaigns. So once I saw the numbers start to slide, despite the confirmation of Maddie, I knew that we were in for heartbreak, and I like had to emotionally detach myself from it. After, well, okay, first of all, that was a week after I spent the entire week refreshing the HasLab website and seeing the numbers go down by the dozens, then the hundreds, and then I think in the end we lost like well over 1,000 backers. It was really disheartening, and I wish we had some sort of assurances that Maddie and Damon and Mephisto were going to come some other way. I think that's the most heartbreaking thing. Is obviously for X Men fans like us, a Madeline Pryor figure is a huge dream, uh, and just to see her and to have her be, I mean, you saw her in
Oh,
person,
she
and she
was
just looked
gorgeous.
absolutely perfect. And just to have that carrot dangled and not get it, it's upsetting. And that's coming from somebody who backed the car before Madeline was even announced because I'm a Robbie Reyes fan.
It's
So,
true. You did.
but
And you
it
urged me to do it. And I lied to you saying I would, but I didn't until Maddie was announced.
I mean, they found a way, and I think that is kind of what turned everybody off, is
I
because it
agree.
seems I think a lot of people interpreted, the addition of tiers like Mephisto and Maddie as Hasbro finding a way to get people to invest in something that they wouldn't otherwise invest in, and I think that just left a really bad taste in people's mouth. I wanted it either way. I was all in and all excited from the get, but yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. I hope they can find another way.
Well, so I've gotten so many DMs about it, and people are like, no, don't worry, we're going to get Maddie and all this stuff. I do believe we will get Mephisto because the rumor is Sacha Baron Cohen has been casted. That is a legit rumor. It is practically confirmed from what I can hear. But you never know what's going to happen. But there are plans for Mephisto in the future, so I do believe we will see Mephisto somehow in the Legends line. But Maddie, I don't know. I'm worried, and I said this on the YouTube breakdown of what happened because I don't know this. Are they going to make her and Damien an example? Like, hey, you didn't fund it. That's it. You're not getting Madeline Pryor. You're not getting, the son of Satan. You're not going
Right.
to. I find it hard to believe Robbie Reyes or Mephisto won't come out, and maybe they can be the outliers. But I think characters like Maddie, I'm worried that she will be the example of, from what you've seen, because I think you're very much more versed in this than I am. Do you think that it's a real possibility we won't see her, or do you think it's a possibility we will see her?
I think it's a possibility we won't. I mean, we haven't gotten any of the tiers that were announced for the Rancor for Star Wars. It's been
Hmm.
about 2 years. I feel it. What is time? I have no real concept. It feels like it's been about 2 years. I feel like you, me, and Daryl were talking about it way back in the day of the Generations of X days. But we haven't gotten any of that. None of that has materialized. And I think that a reason that that particular HasLab failed is because people weren't impressed with the tiers, and they tried to save that by showing a digital rendering of like the Rancor Keeper, which everybody said should have been a tier announced alongside the Rancor. And I agree with that, that they never actually had a prototype, they never actually produced it. So it's, I guess it's less weird that it has never shown up. So I don't know that it's like a one for one example that we can really compare the two. That's the most comparable HasLab. The only other HasLabs that have failed have been the Star Wars Four Sister lightsaber from Obi-Wan, and the life size Cookie Monster puppet that also failed. So the closest example we have is the Rancor, and none of those tiers have made it out. So I think there's good reason to be nervous that Maddie will also never see the light of day. But when characters like Shriek or White Rabbit can find homes single carded in a Spider-Man Legends wave, I just can't imagine Madeline Pryor, especially now that she's about to be hyped up front and center in a Marvel event, that we won't see her. I hope we will. I really do.
So I moved down to Florida and I have a car now. Well, I temporarily am borrowing my dad's car. And in it, in the glove compartment, he has this little like hammer. And I'm like, what the fuck is this little hammer? I'm curious. Do you have a little hammer in your car? Do you know where I'm going with this?
I do not have a
Okay,
little hammer in
so
my car.
apparently, because we're Florida, like people drive into canals, and it's a real possibility that your car could get submerged and you're going to need to find a way out. So you have this little hammer where you can hit the glass and it'll break, it'll shatter.
Wow.
And all I can think of, I should have taken that to New York Comic Con, gone straight up to Maddie on the display case, hit it, and just run with. Who would say anything? Who would say anything? They'll just be like, "Oh yeah, there's fucking Dayspring." Like run away with the Madeline Pryor figure. He's probably either really drunk right now or just lost his shit in that tracks. And we can have a Madeline Pryor right now.
I don't think we ever addressed on the podcast that I actually backed seven of these HasLabs. You're only supposed to do five. I did it from two different email addresses. Maxed out what was left on a particular credit card to try and get Madeline made, and I was literally talking to you about. I calculated how much money we needed to raise to invest in 5,000 of these vengeance engines of vengeance. It was about $1 million, and unfortunately could not find any investors for that. So like, yeah, I do whatever it takes for Maddie. I
I
fully
love you
support.
so much. I was telling it to Jeff, and Jeff was like, "That's really smart, actually." So, you
Because then
know,
we would be the world exclusive Mephisto, Maddie, and Damon dealer, and everybody like we would more than make our money back just selling the fucking figures that the car came with instead of the car that nobody seemed to want. Blah
first of
blah.
all, is his name Damien? I keep calling him Damien because of Damian Wayne.
Is it? I don't.
I always
I
say
honestly.
I am illiterate. I'm from Florida, so like,
It could be either. There's an I in there.
yeah,
Whether
I don't know.
who knows? Who knows what Pat?
I
I just
wanted
know
him
he's
because of
to
Patsy
me.
Walker.
Right. I was gonna say to me he's Mr. Patsy Walker.
He's
Like
Mr.
who cares
Patsy
what
Walker,
his name
Mr.
is?
Hellcat. Yeah, shh, just be shirtless. Just be shirtless. But so today also Hasbro released the villains wave that we've sort of seen throughout the last couple of weeks, and it's going to be a
Yeah,
5 pack, and it's Zero, it's Vertigo, it's Strife, it's Pretty Boy,
that's
and
it.
it's random as well.
Nope. Oh yeah, duh. The one that I'm looking forward to the most. It's a random box set lineup as they are known to do. But I'm happy with it. To be honest with you, I'm happy to get some of these lesser known, probably not even B list X Men villains out there. And, I recognize that this is the only way we're ever going to get somebody probably like Zero or Vertigo out there. So fully support, fully excited.
Right. I do too. And I don't have, I mean, I'm going to break some stuff down really quickly, but in general, I don't mind repaints because we were the pioneer consumers who got the repaint wave, and we got Elektra, we got Polaris, we got characters that we never thought we'd ever get through repaint. So I always support repaints. I just wish for Vertigo they would have used someone else other than Sue Storm, because it's a very basic body. That's fine. But I wish they would have used another head, because all I see is like fucking Sue Storm walked in to the X Mansion, saw Polaris, and was like, I'm going back to the Baxter Building salon and I'm just going to get my hair dyed green. That's how I feel about her.
That is such a very specific head that is easily identifiable. It's one of the more easily identifiable heads. Like, you know, if you have that figure, you know what it's derived from, and there's nothing new sculpted for it. So I can see the disappointment there, but also at the same time,
it's good to have it.
It's Vertigo. She's an easy character. She doesn't have like a super complicated costume or any super identifying things outside of, you know, the green hair, which is present. So I'm fine with it. I would say the one what you're pointing.
No, because I thought you said what you said was so interesting. Because, by the way, guys, that's how like Flink and I chat. I'm always like pointing my finger when I want to say something, and you're usually lost in thought, and I'm just like because remember that Warbird figure that came out, or Captain Marvel figure that came out as part of the 3-pack, that head has been reused for like Moonstone, for the Dark Phoenix, for Gamora, for Satana. Was that her name? Satana from what? And not many people know that because it's kind of a generic looking head. This head, though, is a very particular mold. So I just thought it was very interesting. You said that, like, there's some molds you can get away with it. Other ones you can't. Like Polaris, I still see, like the ToyBiz Polaris, I still see Rogue in that. But the Psylocke turned Elektra, I see Elektra. I mean, it could be because those characters look a little bit more similar, but the molds, you know, it's in the mold, and this one's a particular one. And I think that's why it bugs me so much.
Right, and like it's very obvious. Whereas like something like when they use, you know, Wasp's head for Domino, you didn't see it. You didn't see it. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So I think I agree. It's a little bit too identifiable as what it is derived from. I would say the only disappointing thing about the entire set to me is I think Random is a little small. He's a little small. Random.
Have we talked about this somewhere, because we agreed on it? Like, we thought he was going to be a Baff or something like that.
It was in our thirsty for figs chats with Jason, Hammy, and Michelle. We were talking about how he was a little small, but I mean, fuck, we live in a world where we're about to have a random Marvel Legend, and he's been my most wanted Baff for 2 years running now. So, you know, no shade, no hate. I'll take him however we can get him. And if he's a little small, at least he's a shapeshifter.
I wish we would have gotten the little missiles that he came with in the original ToyBiz. I'm looking at the figure breakdowns, and there's not a lot of accessories. I mean, Pretty Boy has a lot of accessories, which, sidebar, I think Pretty Boy looks amazing. And
he probably looks the best in the set.
Yeah, he's the best. I would give it to Strife next, because I was like, oh my God, that true Jubilee, you know, wave Strife is perfect. How could they ever top that? And I did a comparison today on the Insta story, and I was like, oh, yeah, it's a much improved figure. Like,
it looks like the same cape though.
Yeah,
I think, which is the thing.
Yeah,
which is the thing which is the thing I wanted changed probably the most, because that fucking cape occupies so much real estate in my display. It's hard to pose figures around Strife because his cape is so majestic. But you know what? That's probably how it's meant to be. Strife and Sinister in their capes. What can I say?
I mean, the helmet is like night and day. For the new one, it's beautiful. I mean, like, wow.
Huge.
Cannot believe. Anyways, I ordered 2, just like I ordered 2 of the Dazzler Mojo like box set. So I ordered 2. I'm excited. I have my grievances here and there, but it's a great set. As a celebration of the 60th anniversary of X-Men, give me these figures.
Give us the most random X-Men villains you possibly could. That is honestly, no sarcasm. That is like the perfect way to celebrate the X-Men's 60th anniversary.
So 60th anniversary for the X-Men next year, 20-year anniversary for Hasbro, 20th anniversary for Marvel Legends. We have Sam Hatmaker, who is at the inception of Marvel Legends. We start from that first meeting, you know, transitioning from 5-inch figures to 6-inch figures and all the way to talking about the 20th anniversary. It's a great interview.
It's great. I had so much fun, and he just has brings like so much energy to it. Like I worked a full day today. I went in to work an hour and a half early so that I could be off in time to make it to this interview. And I tell you, the second I hopped on and like felt his energy and your energy and just the enthusiasm for toys, it's like I was a new man. So it is great. You're all gonna love it. I as much as we did. He's just an awesome guy.
All right. Well, then without further ado, here's Sam Hatmaker. Sam, I am so happy to have you on Power of X-Men. You were not only my first Marvel friend, but you were one of my first New York friends. And I just
Oh,
cannot believe we have you here today.
I feel very honored to come and talk with you, and we get to catch up at the same time that we get to discuss geeky stuff we love. So I love that.
Well, it's so funny. When I first started at Marvel, I was an intern at Marvel in 2006, and you were telling me all of these wonderful little juicy things about how you guys do figures and everything. And I would turn around, log into my MySpace account, and DM Flink here and be like,
Oh
I met
yeah.
one of the guys from ToyBiz, and you'll never guess what he told me.
Oh yeah, I would get all of the tea. Not all of it, of course, but you know, here and there, he I definitely knew about his new Marvel BFF Sam, and that he had all the scoop on Marvel Legends, and of course that our origin story, you know, Dave Spring and I's origin story is Marvel Legends, literally. So like, it was I knew how special it was for him to have that relationship so early.
Sam, you know what you did? There's so many things I want to say in general, but there was this one time. If you remember where I sat in front of Flo, Fabulous's Flo's, you know,
Yeah.
office.
Oh, I love
And
love.
I had just come
She,
out from. I know.
she was a magical creature. She really was. She'd been there for 30 years, and she'd worked with Dan Lee back in the day. She was amazing, and I love her.
She said this really cute thing once. Sidebar. She was here like some man offered me a seat on the subway. Do I look that old, Paul? I was like Flo Steinberg, right? That was her last name, Flo Steinberg.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Fabulous Flo Steinberg. I mean, I obviously I never met her, but I've read all about her in the old Marvel bullpen bulletins back in all
yeah,
the '80s comics. Yeah, she's been there. She was legendary.
amazing. And Kooky is like, I love it.
Oh, I remember Cookie. But anyways, so I just come out of Flo's office where I was gossiping with Flo about something. And I came back to my desk and I saw you walking away from the corner of my eye. And do you remember what you did? What you left on my desk?
No.
Okay, well, you were very kind to me. You left me a Build-A-Figure Mojo from the Psylocke long shot wave. Was it
Oh
series
yeah.
12? Look at Flink. Flink, I told you the story.
The whole
The
figure.
whole Build-A-Figure Mojo. I didn't. I only had to get Psylocke from. Well, by the way, because I was a bratty 22-year-old, I then look at Sam and I'm like, wait, do you have Psylocke too?
Oh my god.
Did I have her?
You said you were gonna get her and bring her back to me.
Okay. Because I'm like, we would go through, like, we'd have a dumpster once every 6 months come, and we would fill it up with stuff from our office, like things that was just like, because you get a shipment and you get weird parts, and we like, production is such a weird thing. You first you come up with the mold, and then they would make they put the mold in the machine to test it, but they're not changing out the plastic because they're already making some toy with that machine. They're just going to put it in there for 10 minutes, take it out, and put the old mold back in and keep running the toy they're making. So we would get Hulks that were white and pink and purple, and we'd get Spider-Man that were just 50 different colors. There were piles of prototype toys. There were piles of sample toys that didn't come in the package, but they were already painted. Then there were piles of toys that were ones that were in the packaging, but packaging was incorrect, and we were still finalizing the layout. So all these, have been thousands of variants for every single toy. And if we had thought of, like, oh, these variants are going to be worth something, we could have stocked garages full of them. But we would throw them in the dumpster. And so
Oh
if
my
there was
god.
anything around the office that people wanted, if people said, "Oh, can I have that toy?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can have it." It was easy to be generous when there was so much stuff that was just going to be garbage. You know what I mean? Like, I used to take bags on the subway full of stuff nobody wanted, and it's just going to go in the dumpster. And I would get on the subway, and if there were kids, if they had any kind of Marvel thing, I would pull stuff out, and just hand them toys on the subway. Like, it was a disgusting wealth of toys. I mean, and every one of us who worked there had a room at home that was full of toys. We were all toy lovers. That's how I got the job. I had been buying through college. I loved toys. I loved them. And so through college, I would buy toys of other characters and resculpt them and repaint them to be characters that I couldn't find a toy of. Like, I want Cheetah from Wonder Woman. Nobody's making a Cheetah figure. So I would make my own. And so when I got an interview for ToyBiz, I went into the interview and I started talking about, oh, you guys make this toy and this toy has this special feature and this toy does this. And the lady was like, you're going to fit in here fine. You're gonna fit. Like, how do you know all these? And
She's like, please just take this desk.
I have that set. Yeah.
If I remember, so wait, who was the lady's name? Who was your boss?
Joanne McLaughlin.
Okay, I kind of remember her. So her office was right here. Was your desk? You had like a cubicle. Was it right in front of hers? Right? Am I remembering that kind of?
Yeah. There was her and Tom McCormick. They were the two in the office, and everybody else was just in the bullpen. We were just in one big open space.
No, listen, first of all, when you were leaving, you should have just gone like this with all those figures that were going into the dumpster. And that's it. You would have set for life. Because Marvel Legends is so different. Like the from where it began with you all to where it is today, I mean, it's a whole different industry.
We were learning as we were going, though, a lot of that. Like we would start like we didn't know which characters or how to distribute them, or we had ideas, but things would happen. Like if we put a girl in there, sometimes there'd be like, so one girl per case. So one girl in every 12 figures go to the store.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah.
Because we were after all of them.
But sometimes there'd be like, literally you go to the store and there'd be 40 girl figures there. Because they've gone through 40 girl. So the next time you're not putting that many girls in the set anymore because there's too many girls. So instead of doing one per case, we would do one every 2 cases. And it wasn't because I wanted to make more of them because I wanted all the girl figures. But every time we get to the store, there'd be too many figures of her on the shelf because all the boys had sold around her.
See,
so
it
was always very sad to me. As a gay boy, I was like advocating girls, and that was not working.
That's so strange because my experience collecting ToyBiz, 5-inch figures and Legends is that the girls were hard to find for me. I was always on the hunt for the girls. So it's great. Where is this paradise where I can walk in and easily find the ToyBiz ladies?
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Texas, so you would think that we would. I don't know. We must have a big fan base for the Marvel females because it was tough for me.
Well, it was also. I think it was a little bit later though. Like, when were you collecting toys?
Collecting in the '90s, and then of course transitioned immediately into Legends. Like Legends started when I was graduating high school.
I was buying toys a little bit before that, and the girls were impossible to sell. So for us to get a girl, it was breaking into the market. The Marvel Legends was like breaking into that girl market. It really was hard to, and now they can put more girls in more series and people will collect them. But back then it was very difficult. It wasn't the same fan base. I mean, I bet you the sales numbers of what Marvel Legends is now compared to what it was is much higher.
I'm curious. Wait, I want to ask about you, but before we do that, I am curious about those like sales numbers and stuff like that. Not because I want like any inside tea. I'm just curious. Do you track sales with action figures? Is it per series or is it per figure?
Both-ish.
Both?
I mean, they have the information for both, but the toy industry in general is very weird. Like what doesn't sell costs you money because Walmart will want you to buy it back, or they'll want you to send them a rebate check before the stuff. It is very difficult. So, like, we had big difficulties. Like Hulk first movie, we made some awesome toys in there. There's toys that will have been used over and over again, like the Hulk hands have been used for 20 years now. But when they came out, that was the only thing in the whole line that sold. The Hulk action figures sold terrible. And so everybody wanted their money back. Everybody wanted compensation. And when I say everybody, I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about the sellers, the stores,
retail,
the stores, the retail stores. So it was a very difficult business. Like was dangerous.
Well, thank you for acting dangerously, because here we are 20 years later still talking about the line. But wait, so when I first met you, and it was 2006, it was Marvel, and we had, I don't know if you remember this, we ran into you and your then boyfriend at Midtown Comics. And then we went back to your place. Speaking of people who had, collections and stuff like that, you had a room, or was it a room? I think it was your living room, because it was a train style apartment, was it? Am I remembering it correctly?
Yeah, yeah.
And
There was two rooms. One was Wonder Woman, just the whole room was Wonder Woman. And the second room was toys. It was just toys everywhere. Toys flying from the ceiling, toys filling up bookshelves, like climbing on stuff. Like it was
Heaven.
it was heavy. And Flink would know this story too, because remember those Barbies they sold of like Mary Jane and Storm, I believe. You had a prototype for a Jean Grey / Dark Phoenix in there, and you were like, she has never been released. It's just a prototype, and I'm like, like, get me to the nearest modem with this Ethernet cord so I can get on MySpace and tell Flink all about this.
Yeah, because at the time, I loved Jean.
I always wanted them to make a better, more insanely beautiful Storm with like, I want there to be so much Mohawk coming out. Like, I want a special edition Barbie where like it's like $300, like hair coming up out of that. That's Mohawk Star. That's what I want. The little jean jacket, cut off sleeves. Like, I want it all. I want it to be like professional.
Well, you're also a huge Linda Carter fan. Obviously, that is something I knew about you the second I saw you, Wonder Woman. There was a piece written about you by Dan Avery, who's a very well-known LGBTQIA plus writer back home in New York, because we both don't live there anymore. But was it for HX Magazine? I'm forgetting what pub it was, but he featured...
Oh, no, it was Time Out New York.
Oh my God, it was Time Out New York, where he featured your collection. I'll never forget you sitting down there with your Wonder Woman. It was such a beautiful shot. I forgot if it was a doll or if it was a telephone or some. Did you have a Wonder Woman telephone? Am I making that up?
Yeah, it was both. I mean, I had the doll in one hand and I was on the phone.
Yes, I love I tried Googling it, but I couldn't find it. But I want to know, for obviously Linda Carter had...
It's so
Thank
geeky.
you for being so geeky and being a pioneer for LGBT and collectors. But so Linda Carter was in 1984. I want to know your thoughts on that, and tell us about your love for Linda Carter. And I think, if I remember correctly, in that piece there is a story where you had like an accident at home and you had to go to the emergency room, but you were more upset that you were missing Wonder Woman than the actual act. Am I remembering that correctly?
That is actually true. I was like 5 years old. The TV show was on. This is how old I am. And I was in the bathtub and the TV, was the volume was turned up and I heard the theme song start. I'm like, oh, Wonder Woman's on. And I jumped up in the tub and I spun around like she did in a bathtub. It's not a really smart idea. So I slipped and I cracked my chin open and was bleeding all over. So my mom was like, oh my God, we're going to take you to the hospital. And I'm like, no, we're missing the show. Like I was very upset because that was before VHS. Felt like I was never going to be able to see it again. Now I can watch it on HBO Max, like that. But
no, for the young ones at home, you missed that show live. You weren't ever seeing it again.
Done.
And you did not get these. You didn't even have the DVD like series release. You got a VHS with like this odd pairing of episodes but it was like 4 episodes if you were lucky. And that's it. That's all you had.
That'd be like $20 for 4 episodes. You're like, I have to have it.
Or $20 for just one episode of X-Men if you were a Pride of the X-Men stan, as I was.
1984, Wonder Woman 1984. How happy were you to see Linda there?
Oh, I love her no matter what. She'll always have a special place, and I'm glad that they gave her this place in the new universe. So it's awesome. I would have liked to see more of her.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah. She should have. She was the highlight of that movie for me. I wish she had been more than just a turnaround cameo, and hopefully in the third one, maybe they'll give her something more to do.
She's getting older and older, so it's gonna be harder and harder. You know what I mean? Like.
Wonder Woman doesn't age.
They did it in the first movie. They should have did it in the first movie.
Her
She should have been.
hair in it, she looked beautiful. I was just
Oh
like,
yeah,
Gorgeous.
she. I
girl,
mean, she looked amazing. I love it.
I loved it. Anyways, I cut you off,
So
Flick. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. So
I'm sorry, I do it
obviously,
all.
that's how we do it here.
We
We
talk over each
It's
other.
absolutely fine. So obviously we mentioned that the Wonder Woman collection. So it seems like you've probably been collecting for most of your life. What was the first action figure series that you collected?
First action figure series I collected. Um, it had to probably be He-Man
Yeah.
or Silverhawks. Like I'm older. I He-Man was probably the first one. But I didn't have that many. I probably only had like three. And then I had actually no, I had superpowers before that. Superpowers.
Yes.
I had a Hawkman. Hawkman was my friend. I would squeeze his little legs and his wings would flap. And he
Flapping
would sit on
wings,
my
yeah.
shoulder. We'd fly around together. Like we would run through the woods and he would fly next to me like he was my friend. And I had Wonder Woman, I had Aquaman, I had Superman.
Did the Wonder
Yeah.
Woman have an uppercut action? I'm
Yeah,
trying to.
well, there were two different. One was a punch up, and then
Yeah.
one was this, but it didn't really work. So it just looked like she was like just
Okay, so I think I had
double
this
punching,
one. I
double
remember that
punching.
superpowers figure. I love those figures so much.
I think I only ever had like the Toy Biz like late '80s like reissue. Was it a reissue? Straight up reissue? I can't
It was.
remember.
I think they were updated versions though, because I think some of them did have different actions.
Yeah, she was iconic.
Very thick, like it's very like just chunky.
I mean, I
love
would
it.
take it at the time. A chunky Wonder Woman, if that's the best we
Oh.
got, I'm fine.
You could have made the worst. I had an in-action figure Wonder Woman that was because there was no Wonder Woman toy. So Burger King came out with collector's cups. It was like
Yes,
a figure with a white
Yes!
cup on it.
I was literally just Googling that right now because I was like, am I making that up? And she had like a blue base or something like that.
Yeah, and literally I had all three of them, but I didn't have action figures of any of the three of them at the time. So I threw the cup away. I didn't care about the cup. And I cut the base off and I had Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman action figures that were just stood there with their arms out. But they were enough for me. It was an action figure. I could run around with it and like it could do it was an in-action figure, but it was amazing.
It's Flink. Were you around for that? You're like a year
I-
younger than me, but when you're 4 or 3, it makes a big difference.
Yeah,
Did you have it?
I don't know. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Oh my God. So Burger King had, and we're looking right now, she didn't have a blue base, it was a yellow base, but they
Yellow.
released like the Justice League and they were like cup holders. So they were like this big, the figure, their hands go out like that and a cup like snaps in there. It was iconic. It was so, I'm sorry. You
I literally
today
probably
would be all
have
over it.
still somewhere.
Really?
But I sold all of my toys, like everything. I sold all of my toys. I sold all of my Wonder Woman collection. I sold I have my Lego collection now, and that is I have a little tiny shelf right next to me of Wonder Woman it's only the Linda Carter doll that's signed by her to me. So I'm like, I
You
can't
can't
get rid of that.
No.
A Dolly Parton doll that's signed to me. Then I'm like, I can't get rid of that.
Treasure.
Two Cher dolls, and I just can't get rid of them because they're Cher.
Which ones? Which ones?
The 80s, If I Could Turn Back Time,
Yep.
and
have it.
and the Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves are half breed.
Yep.
Feather mohawk like 70s.
Have them
love
both. Those are the only Barbies I have are the two Cher. And I have her loose in her purple, the one that was on Will and Grace. But the feathers on that bow are getting everywhere, so it might be time for her to go. She's molting.
She's molting. I love that. And I have like I did a sculpture of like they're like sexy thick girls, and
Yeah.
I have those, and I don't have any other action figures or toys.
I'm just in shock that I'm not prepared for that. I thought you were going to tell me, like you were going to turn your camera and I was going to see everything there or it was in storage. I cannot believe you sold all of it, but I get it. Space.
I bought a house with it.
You what? You bought a house? Okay,
I did.
well,
I literally paid cash for a house with my collection. Because every
Wow.
time I'd sell something, I put it in a separate bank account
Yeah.
until all the stuff was gone. I'm like, how much did I make? And I had this number, and I'm like, okay. And my parents needed a house in Michigan, so I bought one, and they lived there, and But I paid cash. I didn't have to worry about making payments every month. I'm like, it's there.
I am obsessed with you right now. That is this. You are a poster child for why collecting is a wise investment. So there you
Yes.
have it.
I
You're
probably could have
affirming my belief.
Yeah, this is our retire. You can't see Galactus. I have the HasLab Galactus. That's my retirement right there.
I love it.
Comic book art behind me. Like I tell my husband, like every time I get something new, I'm like, but later when I sell it, it's an investment. It's an investment. So you're affirming my life right now.
Well, Jeff was like, you'll never sell it. Anytime I've tried to pull that shit on you, Jeff's like, you'll never sell it. Just like you don't sell this clothes. I still have shirts from 2006, and literally Jeff has been screaming at me because we just don't have the closet space to keep all these clothes. So, okay.
Clothes are so disposable, though. You can get so many clothes, so many places. You do not need to keep it. You'll find, if you never wear it the last 2 years, you'll find something. Any day you go out and go shopping, you'll find something that will replace it in your heart. You'll be like, "Oh, I'll wear this a million times."
This is fair.
Clothes are disposable. It's so easy to accumulate more. You go to a thrift shop and find 75 things to take home, and like literally, dispose of it.
Clothes are like the one thing I don't struggle with. It's like one in, one out, I'm good. But
really?
Everything else, I'm like,
no.
You're mine forever.
This is a separate podcast altogether. Like my marriage on the rocks because I refuse to part with this Armani Exchange polo I got in 2004. Like it's separate podcast.
I'm here for it. I will come because I will give you therapy because that's how I had to do myself to get rid of the stuff. I had so much stuff. I'm like, it's taking up so much space in my life. It was like a giant turtle shell I had to carry around with me every time. If I wanted to move somewhere, I had to pack it all up, and I'm like, why? I've seen all these, and there's going to be 1,000 other new toys that I'm going to think are awesome, and I love them. And I'm like, I don't need all those too. I'm like, after you have them for a while, you forget how cool they are because anything in life you see it enough, it becomes mundane. And so you need something new to make it unmundane. And you buying something is never going to fix that. That's how I lived my relationship. That's why I was with my relationship for so long. I literally used, oh God, okay. So do you know the song, The Dog Days Are Over by Florence and the Machine?
Yeah, of course.
She has a line, with every bauble I sang with a drink and I watched it wash down the kitchen sink. I filled my life that way. I bought things and go, oh my God, look, I got a new phone. I got a new this. And oh, she's going to be so cool. She's going to make me so happy. And then I would move on to the next thing. And I wasn't moving on with my life because I was picking up more stuff to carry around with me instead of living my life. And so I got rid of all of it. I sold everything. That song changed my life. I got rid of my relationship. That was the same thing. It was just a relationship of convenience. And I needed to go out and live a life. And so I call it my first midlife crisis or whatever. But it really changed everything for the better. I changed so much. I simplified. I made myself happier. I started doing my own art. I started doing my own stuff. And I might not make as much money as I used to, but I don't wake up in the morning going, oh God, I have to go to work. I wake up going, oh my God, I get to make something cool today, And I don't miss any of that stuff ever. I never think about it. I never think going, oh God, I wish I had that. No, I go out and I see other cool new stuff all the time.
Well, I have to tell you, I really love that seismic shift in you because I've noticed it. And, I haven't seen you in years, but when we used to check in on each other, I think the last time we seriously hung out was probably my 30th birthday party. You came to my 30th birthday party. And then I ran into you at Hell's Kitchen. Obviously, I just saw you at San Diego Comic-Con with Lenore. And I'm just in awe of everything you've done. I mean, obviously, I also follow you on the social media. We're Facebook friends. But I am so proud of you. And not only did you have that seismic shift, but you're fucking on Lego Masters. Like, what the fuck? Tell us about Lego Masters.
Well, so after I left the toy industry and that world, I traveled the world for a little bit and explored and learned about life and learned about what other things were out there and I don't know. I just wanted to refresh myself. And I started building things out of Lego. Like I had already done it a little bit while I was still working in the toys, but I just started building more and more, and I got recognition from it. Like I built a Golden Girls Lego set, and it went viral online, and like Ellen DeGeneres reposted it, and it was just like really crazy. And so when the TV show came around, a bunch of friends told me you should apply for this, and so I applied. They enjoyed me. They enjoyed my personality. Um, they enjoyed my look. I'm a little, a
You
little
got
weirdo.
style. You got
Um,
swag. You got so much swag.
I don't know. I yeah, thanks. That actually makes me feel really nice. So thanks.
I
Uh,
remember when I saw the mohawk for the first time, because you
oh,
used to have you had reddish hair that was
it
kind of
was always red. It was always red.
kind of like a Peter Pan-ish, that kind of like
Yeah, yeah,
cut.
short and chubby.
And then I remember
Yeah.
when I saw like the mohawk, I was like, your vibe is so different. We were in Hell's Kitchen. I ran into you in Hell's Kitchen at brunch. I saw the mohawk. I was like, your hair.
um, that's if that was just a fun, weird. My Facebook memory thing just showed that it was like 12 years ago. I'm like, I've had this haircut for 12 years now. I'm like, I can't believe it.
I was like, I saw you at
Um,
brunch last week. I can't believe it's been 12 years.
like, it's weird though too, because like you think 12 years, you're like, when I used to look at like my mom's pictures, you're like, those people don't change their hairstyle forever. And you see that woman's been wearing the same hair since the 80s. But I'm like, am I going to become that? Is this my haircut from now on? Like,
That's totally me. I've had the same haircut now for like 10 years. It's forever unchanging. Anything else just doesn't work. So if you can rock it and it looks good, keep doing it.
I mean, but your hair's beautiful, Mike.
his
Oh,
hair
well,
is
thank you.
beautiful.
He has beautiful hair.
I'm
I
blushing.
bet
I'm
you could do
blushing.
all kinds of stuff with it.
I the thing is I have like you can't tell, but we're going way off script here, but that's fine. I have so many cowlicks on my head that I can't like I just have it does what it does and I just leave it
Cowlicks are
alone.
cute. Cowlicks are
It
cute.
is cute.
Tousled. I love little tousled hair.
I mean, it could be a little more tasseled. It could be a little more tasseled. I do keep it very kempt at all times. I should probably be a little more. I mean, I had
No,
the
be
faux hawk
yourself.
for
Do
like
what you want to do. Be
forever.
yourself.
Oh my god, I'm gonna bring back the faux hawk then because that's really my signature. That's how Paul knows me best as the guy from the internet with the faux hawk.
I love it. Look, no complaints on your hair. I've always thought you have beautiful hair and great style. But wait, Sam, how did you get on Lego Masters then?
Oh, okay.
You're traveling the world. You got this beautiful mohawk.
So I applied for the show, and they liked me. They liked my personality. They liked my look.
Of course.
I didn't have a partner, and I auditioned with two other partners, and they didn't like either one of them. So they gave me this partner, and they put me on the show. And we did the best we could. We got way further than I ever thought we would. Starting out, we went way further, and that was a huge thing because she was so encouraging of like, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. She was a cheerleader, which is an amazing thing. Because you need it. I cannot tell you, reality TV is you can't understand it unless you've done it. It is not well, it is real and it isn't real. It's like it's edited and there's a story to be told and there is like scripting. I mean, there really is a scripter. You would see scenes where somebody's talking, there's like very little on their desk, and in the next sentence there's a lot of stuff on their desk, and the next sentence there's nothing on the desk again. You're like, those are not the same. Now, when you recorded for 14 hours or 16 hours, there's more than 20 seconds of talking time in there. You know what I mean? And 14 hours of stressful, like constantly adrenaline, like they would pick us up from the hotel at 5:30 in the morning, and you get back to the hotel at 9 at night. And then the next day you do it again, and the next day you do it again, and the next day you do it again. And when they say week, it's like, no, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is one episode, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday is another episode. And then it's like you're just so exhausted and like trying to be creative on demand, and it is crazy and exhilarating. And we went through like a traumatic experience, like a plane crash, like so we are bonded as a family. I love it. But yeah, I was very lucky to be chosen because they liked my talent and they saw that I could build some stuff, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, and what is it about Legos that you think makes it such a special hobby, that makes it have such a community? Because my husband is super into it, and I know why he does it. It relaxes him.
Yeah.
He loves to just build. It's
Yeah.
funny. We were just talking like 2 days ago. We were watching the latest episode, and I was like, "Oh, why don't we go on Lego Masters and I can be your little assistant, even though I don't know what I'm doing?" And now you've totally just talked me out of that fantasy 100%. Could not
Do it.
handle that production schedule.
No, but you should do it. Like, you should definitely do it. A gay couple doing it is great. They would love it, you know? They would love it. Like, I could tell you the best demographics to apply for the show if you want to get on the show. Like, but that's another conversation some other time too.
Yeah.
You have my information. Contact me. I'll tell you all about it.
Get it.
I'm into it. I'm interested. I might go crazy and have a breakdown.
They'll love that too. They'll keep you longer.
You'll come back for All Stars.
Exactly.
I'll be the new Valerie Cherish.
Okay, wait. So, Sam, we are an X-Men podcast. So
I'm
before
sorry.
no, because we're gonna ask you questions about X-Men, and I don't know these answers for you. I mean, I can infer some, but I'm gonna ask you, who is your favorite X-Man ever? Or it could be mutant, but you get it, like X-Men character.
Oh, Rogue was
yes!
Character. Like, she as a gay kid, she had like this pathos in her life that was so what I felt every day, this pain and anguish. Like, she could love people, but she can't touch them. And I just, it was like she was like a soap opera besides being an awesome badass superhero. So I loved it.
Now I feel like such a D-bag because literally when I saw you at San Diego Comic-Con, I'm with Lenore Zan, aka the voice of Rogue for folks at home. And I would have been like, this is Sam Hatmaker. He worked at Marvel. Like, you two need to be BFFs.
Okay, so, and also because we're an X-Men podcast, but we're also kind of a shady podcast. So on the flip side of that, who is like your least favorite X-Man or mutant character?
Oh God, there's a lot of them.
Yes, open up the library.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be one. You can give us a top 10 if you want.
Oh God, I need a moment to think about that. I mean, Toad is the whole. Why is he? What is it? Over it. I don't need Toad. Oh God, I literally. I wish I had a picture of the X-Men so I could just point at them.
Funny. Wait, maybe I can change my screen here because I had. For previous episodes, choose my virtual background. Can you see this one? Does that help? Yeah. Can you see those right there?
Yeah.
But I feel like these are all likable ones.
Yeah, they're all pretty good characters.
And you're literally covering Beast.
Oh, that Beast is ugly though, too. Gross. Nightcrawler is one of my favorite characters forever. He will always be. I know a lot of people love Cannonball. I don't think I ever read enough of his stuff, so he's a waste for me. I don't really care about him.
Oh, we can ask you how you feel about some characters. How about that? How do you feel about Hank McCoy?
Well, it's crazy. When he was young, he was a good guy, but he's become a bitch.
What about, let's see, who else do we have here? What about Polaris? What are your thoughts on Popo?
God, I don't know.
I mean, she doesn't know either.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Is she Magneto's daughter still?
Yes. Like,
yes.
Confirmed.
Confirmed.
Finally leaning into it.
Yeah. Okay. How do you feel about Dazzler?
Dazzler is one of the coolest characters ever. Like, for sure.
Thank God.
Disco era for sure, though. Disco era is I could never even imagine another costume. I really do like the headband one, but Disco Dazzler is the ultimate.
Fortunately, I have both behind me. I even have President Dazzler behind me. So all versions of Dazzler are welcome here. I'm gonna have, like, assuming they ever give me enough Dazzler merchandise, but eventually I'm gonna have, like, what for Dazzler, what you apparently had for Linda Carter.
And
Wonder Woman.
You need to slide into Dan Avery's DMs and get a feature written about you in Time Out New York.
Time Out Texas.
That's how I met Dan too. It's like, and we became friends right after that. Like, we were on it. They need to make a Dazzler Barbie doll too, like the same as the other ones, but the ultimate version, like the story one. I want it to be like a $350 Dazzler with real sequin on the outfit. I want it to have roller skates, and I want it to have, like, it's got to be expensive and gorgeous.
It has to have like perfectly coiffed, like Farrah Fawcett dazzler hair. Like, yes, I would pay more than $350 for that. Don't tell them that. But don't tell. They don't need to know that I'd pay more than that, but I absolutely would.
Alternatively, who is your favorite X-villain?
X-villain?
Yeah.
Magneto. He's perfect. He's a perfect character. Like, because he is right and wrong. Just Charles is very similar, though. Charles is very similar. He's right and wrong. Like, he's, yeah, I love them both.
Yeah, well, I think the Leewald said this when we had them on the podcast, where they were saying that like the entire purpose of Magneto coming in later in the series was because they wanted to show that the U.S. government was the real villain of the series, and by the time you get to Magneto, he may not be wrong in his convictions.
Yeah.
So I agree. He's absolutely a perfect villain.
Awesome. I'm glad I had a good answer for that
one.
So, assuming you flirted with the X-Men comics a little bit, in your experience, did you have a favorite X-Men crossover or any storyline that particularly resonated with you?
God, the episode where I can't remember who, Ileana. No, yeah, Ileana's dying.
Yes,
and Kitty Pryde is there, and she doesn't understand. Or Jubilee, is it right? Jubilee doesn't understand what Kitty Pryde's connection, and she doesn't understand the whole thing. And I remember that issue bawling, crying the whole time. Like, it was devastating, and it was conveyed so much emotion. It was amazing. It was one of my favorite issues ever. I swear to God.
And she looks so much like Elizabeth Shue in that panel, like Kitty Pryde, when like Jubilee opens up and is that, Flink, you would know this, is that the first time they meet on, I was going to say on screen, but on panel, the first time Kitty and Jubilee?
I believe so. And I believe
because it's very
John
dramatic.
Jr. Yeah. It's gorgeous. And that issue with Ileana and Jubilee and Kitty, like, that was one of the very first X-Men comics in general that I ever read, and I didn't know the relationship between Kitty and Ileana. I was like the Jubilee in that situation. And the way that they like laid it out, they sold it, they explained it. It was so emotional. Like, I was crying. I was probably in like second grade, like bawling my eyes out reading an X-Men comic on recess. And it was so well done. That's like, totally agree. That issue is very special.
So Sam, you started off at Marvel / ToyBiz in 2001. Tell us about the job. Tell us about your interview process. I mean, you kind of already alluded to it. You kind of came in, you knew all the figures, but how were you offered the job? What was your first day like? Can you walk us through that?
Okay, yeah. So the job was like, it was the Hangover movies. It really was. It was like a frat party. It was a frat house. It was, everybody working there was 25 to 35. Like, we'd all grew up with toys. We'd all had passions for the characters and toys themselves. And there were, drugs in the drawers, and there were like, like people.
I do remember that.
people bringing their girl back there in the middle of the night and having sex on a desk, and like, it was crazy. If they could make a movie of it, or like a TV show like The Office, but much raunchier. But it was so fun. There was one female on the whole floor, and it was a bunch of guys having rubber band wars and making toys. It was chaos and fun, and we all look back at it going, wow, we really were lucky to have this life that we just fell into, just happened. I had applied for the job. I had been working at an industrial design firm, and the job came posted online, and one of my friends there knew I loved toys. So they go, you should apply for this. And we looked, and the job had been posted for over a month. And I'm like, they've already filled this position. There's no way I'm going to get it. And he's like, just send your resume. So I sent it in, and I guess it was like, it came out and like, oh yeah, we should actually call somebody about that. So they called me. They called the top 5. So it was just luck that I got the interview in the first place. There was a stack of like 350 resumes there, and so they called me. I had no experience. I had never been to toy design school. I'd been to art school, so I knew aspects, but I didn't know anything about the toy design process. And but I came in and started talking, and she's asking me questions about stuff and asking me if I recognize any of this stuff. I told her I've seen all these toys. I know what this one does. I have that whole series. I have that series. And she's like, oh, you'll fit in fine. These are people who, she wants nerds who want to do this stuff. She wants people who are going to really be passionate about making a great product. And we did. We all loved these characters. We would get so upset about like a sculpt coming in with the face just wasn't right, or the body proportion just wasn't right, or China would take it and making molds, they would change a hip joint or an arm joint. It wouldn't work the same. We're like, no, we were passionate about it. We wanted to make the best product possible.
Oh, and the product was mind blowing, by the way, at the time, just compared to everything that had come before. So appreciate you, advocating for those of us out there who grew up with toys that were great and special in their own way, but were ready to, move on to things on another level. And you guys were definitely doing that.
So I have a question. So this is like a frat, situation, rubber band wars, everything. Who is checking the 1-800 number and hearing all these kids? Was it still around in the early 2000s?
Oh yeah, it was. I don't know who was checking it. It had to be somebody in the marketing department or PR, somewhere in that section.
But they weren't calling us back. Definitely weren't calling us back.
They were not calling you back?
They did not call us back. Womp womp.
So, we had gone through a couple of wilderness years in terms of Marvel toys. There wasn't a solid, release until we started getting Spider-Man classics. How did, which of course, morphed into Marvel Legends. How did the idea, for these lines come about?
Well, Spider-Man movie had just happened. And so we were turning it, we had pushed the envelope with those, giving them more features, more joints, more posability. And we're like, well, once the movie's over, we can't sell movie toys anymore. So what are we going to transition into, And obviously we're going to transition into Spider-Man Classic. And so that really was our first time we got to do amazing Spider-Man sculpts, with multiple points of articulation. And I remember there was 32 points of articulation or something like that. It was ridiculous. And I loved those figures. I was obsessed with them. We all had them on our desks there. We were all so proud of them in every single way we wanted.
Did you guys have a meeting where you were like, okay, so the movies are going to be done. We want to do more movie style action figures with these 32 points of articulation, which used to be on the actual packaging for the Marvel Legends. But was there ever this talk about hey, we are going to transition from 5-inch to 6-inch figures?
Oh yeah, there was definitely a discussion about it, about setting us apart, and also more detail. We really wanted the space to be able to put more joints in there and to make them, they just work better. The scale would work better. Somebody wouldn't be so chunky and thick. And the more, I don't know, it was mostly scale for detail and for joint articulation. But it just worked better in every single way. It set us apart from the rest. They just felt so hefty in your hand compared to the smaller ones. They just felt like almost an adult figure. They were, there was a few years ago, there was a doll company. They're making dolls that were 16 inches, and they were very much shaped like Barbie. But when you held them in your hand, you felt like a little kid holding a Barbie, even though you're an adult. It felt so big. And I think these figures did that too. It brought back a demographic that had stopped playing with toys and started going, wait, those are awesome. I want to come back and buy some of those, look how cool that one is.
Right here. Yes. Yeah, I had stopped. Same. I forgot, where was the last wave? It was probably, I think, before the Onslaught wave that had Jean and Onslaught and Wolverine. That wave, I think it was probably a Monster Armor. Flink, you would probably know better than I do. but that was whatever that wave before that. I was like, oh, it was Water Wars. It was Water Wars with
That was
Iceman
about
and
when I
Storm.
was done.
And then I was like, okay, I'm done here. But then 2002, go into Toys R Us with my little brother. And I'm like, oh, let me just walk by the aisle I used to go to as a child all the time. And I saw Toad, the Marvel Legends Toad there. And I was like, I have to have him. And I bought him. You know what I mean? So you guys nailed it, though, because it's so interesting even hearing you talk that, because what you just said, this idea that you guys wanted to make sure you were appealing to the collector who had abandoned the hobby and want an adult to feel like they're holding that same feeling that they're holding a toy. It's still alive today. That is why Hasbro is so successful with like their live streams and everything, because of what you guys were thinking. You guys were the pioneers on that.
we pioneered a lot of stuff in that company. We really did. If you looked at the Lord of the Rings toys today, they are still better than most of the toys out there. Like we tried new techniques to give them, like, underneath the robes, there's other layers of underwear robes.
Yes.
And then the sculpted body is sculpted in the actual what they wore underneath there. They were so detailed and so accurate, and just it's an amazing toy line. There's not ever been one like it since then. And it's ToyBiz, we were trying new stuff. We were going for it. We were a bunch of nerds nerding out about things we wanted, and we were making things for ourselves. We tried to get so many other things made too. We pushed to get a Balrog made from like a huge toy like this big. But when you start getting into the corporate part of it, you realize those things are really, really hard. Like just developing a Spider-Man car, we would have 3 or 4 meetings about design from it, and everybody, 5 of us would bring 10 designs each of what color. We already decided what the car looks like, the sculpt of it. Now we're just doing colors, and each of us would bring 10, and so we'd have 50 colors versions on the wall, and people would stare at them for an hour trying to decide if it should be blue with a red stripe or red with a blue stripe, or blue with a black stripe or red with a blue stripe. And it was like, oh my god, this is crazy. No kid is gonna care. It's a Spider-Man car. If it's blue, they're buying it. Red, they're buying it. Like they're buying it. But we would have meetings like that. It was crazy.
I actually have to give you some props for the Lord of the Rings line, because I had actually lapsed in buying toys at that point until Marvel Legends started up. But my best friend in the world is obsessed with Lord of the Rings. And those ToyBiz Lord of the Rings toys were so cool looking, because I never stopped walking down the toy aisle. So I would see the Lord of the Rings toys. And I bought her just a shitload for every holiday for like 2 years. And to this day, she has them in a glass case in her living room. She loves those action figures so much, and they were such quality. The sculpts were so good, the likenesses were so good. Like aside from Marvel Legends, like that period, like when you reminded me of the Lord of the Rings line, like you guys were truly pioneering what action figures are today in every way.
That's very nice to hear. I wish I had that line still, because they're oh my god, they're hard to find and they're very expensive, and I'm like, oh, I loved those.
Yeah, I'll still buy her an expensive one every couple of years on eBay for Christmas. Like they hold up so well.
I have a story about being generous with your stuff, because I had lots of toys at home, as you know, and my friend who worked at DC one day asked me if I had the horse and rider set from the Lord of the Rings line. And I'm like, well, we don't have any in the office, but I have one at home. You can have mine. I don't need it that bad. And he's like, okay, my friend really wants it. So I went home, and the next day I brought it to him and I left it there. Like 2 weeks later, he called me at my office and said, hey, on your way home, stop by my office. I got something for you. And I'm like, okay. And so I stopped by there, and he's like, oh, my friend who wanted that horse, that was Jim Lee. And he knows you love Wonder Woman, so he did a drawing for you, and it was a pen and ink and everything, drawing of Wonder Woman to me, because I gave him my Lord of the Rings toy.
That's it. Blink fainted. Warm. Blink! Like, oh my god, like, Sam, you're welcome on this podcast anytime. I mean, you literally made Flink like all flustered right now. That doesn't happen often. You are welcome all the time.
I just be generous with your stuff. If it's not that important, like I didn't need that. I gave it away, and it came back to me in a magical way.
Yeah, that's a one of a kind. You're never getting nothing like that. It will. Hopefully, it will. But the odds of it happening are slim, probably.
Yeah, exactly. It's just magic. I love it.
So, you're talking about the Lord of the Rings figures and your approach to that and how you guys were doing things that had never been done before. It's still not even being done till this day. We saw that in the Marvel Legends line as well. We've talked about this endlessly, Flink. Like, it felt like you guys had individual sculpts for all of the characters.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about that. And I'm also curious about your approach to designing characters. And was there a particular, Marvel character that you designed that you wanted to nail right? Do you have any anecdotes about that?
So I never was in charge of any of the Marvel Legends. That was a Jesse Falcon exclusive. Jesse Falcon was the project manager in charge of that one. So we all got input. He would listen to us. We would advocate for stuff. For me, my best thing was he always came to me first about the girls. Like, what do you think of this face? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And because he knew I would be the most critical because I was the gay boy in the office going, I want more girls. Every single time the line would come up, they start discussing new characters. I would list off Dazzler. I would list off Emma Frost. I would list off all the people I wanted.
We could have gotten a Dazzler, Firestar, and Emma Frost in 2003.
No,
we had to wait 20 years.
They went with Elektra because she'd just been in a movie, and they went with right after that was who was the second one?
Phoenix was the next one.
Yeah,
Phoenix was the second one.
Yeah, and
we're such nerds. We knew that off the top of our the second female. Actually, no, that's a blatant lie. Would Rogue have been the second female?
It would have been Rogue in the box set because she had the funky. I'm sorry, I'm not insulting, but I'm going to call them the funky Elektra thighs.
Yeah,
yeah. But that was the first female. It's really hard because you're learning. We are just building this framing technique for the boys of how to build the joints. Now make those same joints inside of a female figure that is supposed to be, like the expectations we put on women in real life. You're supposed to be this big, but it's still able to move in all the ways. And so it was very difficult. It was not, but she might not be the perfect first figure, but they got better.
Oh, they got way better. And trust me, that Elektra is I've unfortunately sold off most of my ToyBiz Legends as I've replaced them with newer Hasbro ones, but there's several, but most of the ladies I have wound up keeping. And Elektra, that first Elektra, she's one that I remember, where I was, what store I found her at, who I was with. I was like, this is the first female they've done. Like I joke about her strange thigh cut articulation, but I adore that figure and have such like fond memories of her.
She was a great figure. She was better than the Marvel Select Elektra that had come out,
a
couple years before. She was great. No shame on the Marvel Selects because they're releasing an Iceman recently that looks boss. But I remember loving that and the work you guys did. I, however, snatched up all the Elektras because she was a peg warmer, to your point earlier, Sam, about, female figures. And I tried to make a custom Emma Frost, which I have sent my photos of. And if I can find it, I'll throw it up in this episode. But it was like a frank. I did not possess the talent.
You're not a customizer.
I'm not a customizer. Did not have that at all.
But she was a peg warmer. She trying to get another female in there after one sat there on the shelves. It was very much like, oh God. So we had to be the right character. It had to be the most popular character. It had to be,
It's wild. I just did not experience peg warming females.
I was only Elektra. I know. Only Elektra, but even La Lunatica from like X-Men 2099 was impossible to find. I'm curious about. So you guys would have meetings, obviously, when you're doing character selections for any of the waves. You'd be like, oh, this female action figure has to be distributed a certain way because if not, she's going to end up a peg warmer, and that was just industry standard.
Yeah. It was industry standard completely across the board. It still is. I mean, there's still, they know exactly which ones they think will sell and which ones they think won't sell. And sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes they just don't do enough of one character and they're like, shit, we could have. I don't know if you're allowed to swear on here. Sorry.
You swear.
Yeah,
fuck. Just swear.
Yeah.
It's hard. Sometimes you can't. And
yeah, we have no sponsors. Don't worry.
No.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, but we'd always have meetings full of random weird shit like color selection or how many we're gonna put in a case or variants. Variants was such a fun topic because we would have like, okay, we're doing the Wolverine sculpt. What color is this outfit going to be? Is it going to be this one or is it going to be this one? And then can we have a mask or no mask or can we do this or that? And how they would get distributed would be so random. It'd be like one every 25 cases or one every 50 cases. And
Sam, I love you so much, but fuck you and the Chase figures. Oh my God. That Dark Phoenix Chase figure, I think I would have sold a kidney for that.
yeah. I
Were you guys aware of how popular the Chase figures were and how people were going crazy?
Sure, we were aware of it. But it's like they wouldn't let us do more than that. And like even when we order samples, we couldn't get Chase figures in the office. We weren't allowed to. Like literally, I one time I was at a store and I saw it like literally at a random shop, like one of those on Broadway up in the 90s, like those old toy shops where it's like a mom and pop toy shop. I was in there with a friend and I looked over and there was a Wolverine with no mask on and it was $15. And I'm like, I'm buying that. And I kept the receipt because if it came to the office, I'd take it home and I'd try to sell it on eBay. Somebody would have noticed it and I would have got fired if I didn't have proof that I bought it somewhere else because I wasn't allowed, so I bought it and I sold it for like $300. But I'm like, you just never knew when you'd show up and get one. Like if I could have ordered them into the office from China, we all would have, but we weren't allowed to.
For normal figures, could you order them from China and just have them come in? I'm trying to liken this to when I worked in book publishing. I could order whatever books I wanted, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so I wish we had more power to we weren't allowed to cost it money. We could order an extra case of this figure, an extra case of that, something that's not costing them. But if I'm I always wanted to say, can you, next time you have light blue in the mold, can you mold one of these? But they would cost them hours of having to change a mold out, make a special color, do it. But I always wanted to be able to customize my figures that way. Well, we haven't made this character yet, so can you send me a, purple of this so I can paint the rest of this stuff on and make this character for myself? But that wasn't a thing they would do.
I have relayed this story before on the podcast, and it is I have to tell you, the only time I ever found Chase figures IRL, it was the greatest experience. It was 3 a.m. at Walmart, post the gay club, all right, post drag show, post gay club, covered in glitter. I roll in, probably, not sober. Thankfully I was not the one driving, and they had just put out a fresh case of one of those best of Marvel Legends Walmarts waves, and it had Dark Phoenix, Phasing Ghost Rider, Phasing Vision. Who else? I mean, it was all of them basically. Did I say Dark Phoenix? I'm gonna say her again because I probably text Paul or messaged Paul on MySpace at
you ran back to your dorm
Florida time.
Ran back to your dorm and logged into MySpace and messaged me.
He bought 2 of them.
There weren't 2, that's for sure. And they were all for me. And I literally, I will never forget that story. It's one of my favorite collecting stories, just because finding one would have been enough. Finding that Dark Phoenix would have been enough, but finding 5 of them at the same time, I probably did cry. I probably did, to be perfectly honest with you.
But Sam, were you aware? At what point in the office? I have to ask this. Were you guys aware that you had done something special, that you had cultivated this new generation of collectors? Because really, Marvel Legends started in 2002. By 2004, 2005, people were hungry for these figures.
Oh, yeah. We knew pretty quickly. The sales numbers were really, really good. The stores loved it. And just hearing fans online start talking about it and start having discussions about, I mean, I knew we did good thing when the first prototypes from the first set were coming to us. Because like I said before, I don't care about Toad. But that Toad was an amazing sculpt. It was so hyper detailed compared to anything that had been done in previous lines. It did not look like just a flat. We were using new paint techniques where you just wash a color on stuff instead of being painted in masks, and it was a beautiful line.
It was a gorgeous. I mean, that toad in particular was gorgeous, and obviously they just re-released a different version of that toad for the 20th anniversary here. But it has been a hallmark of the Marvel Legends series.
Yeah.
20 years. Oh my god.
So I speaking, we touched on chase figures. I do have to ask because obviously something like Dark Phoenix or like a phasing vision, that seems like a no brainer. But the one that kind of did, I will admit, kind of got me was when it switched from like simple like color variants to unique characters like Goliath and Red Skull. What was the thinking behind that? Because I think that may have drawn the ire of just a handful of fanboys on the internet.
You'd have to ask Jesse Falcon about that because, um, or I don't know. I don't know what the decision behind it was.
What was it like working with Jesse Falcon, though? Sidebar.
Jesse's awesome. He is fun to work with. I mean, you'll never have a boring time with him for sure.
Was he like he was like a stand-up comedian too at the time? I think people were talking that
Yeah.
he was like on VH1 or something like that when I was in the office.
He's been on a few episodes and stuff. He still does some stand up here in LA. Like
yeah.
we're not stand up, but like entertainment stuff.
Have you seen him since you left Toy Biz?
Yeah, actually, like literally last week. I want to say it was last Tuesday or Wednesday. I was crossing the street going to my friend's house who lives just down the block, and this car at the intersection honked its horn, and it was Jesse. And he yelled at them like, "Oh my god!" Like it was good to see you. Like so, we talked about we're gonna have lunch sometime soon.
I love that you guys are all in LA now.
Everybody says that, but
oh yeah, that's not, I say that
LA
too.
thing.
It's such an LA thing. At least in New York, you're like, "Oh, it was great seeing you," and you move on. But like LA, it's like, "Let's get lunch sometime," and you're like, "Well, never."
You mentioned earlier that you were sort of the advocate in the office for the female figures, and I'm just curious. This is just me, my obsessive collector brain, wondering why did we never get a single carded Invisible Woman in the blue on blue to match the boys that had been released? Because she came out in that box set in the blue and the white.
I would have loved it. I would have loved it. I don't know why they chose not to do it. There's so many ones that we would say like in meetings of going, we could have 3 different versions of her in one sculpt. You could have variants of like, I'm like, why aren't we doing this? Like, I don't, but the problem is variants of female figures was even harder than just a female figure as itself. It was like, you get one version of which one do you want? And sometimes decisions were made poorly. I don't know what to say. We all have regrets and stuff we worked on going, oh, I wish I had changed that, or I wish I had done that.
Oh, I mean, I don't think you should have any regrets because personally, my favorite FF costumes are the blue and the white. I just remember at the time being like, well, why do we have an incomplete blue on blue? Just the little nerd things that I think keep me up at night 20 years later. But I'm also curious, when we got newer characters like the Young Avengers or X-23, was that a desire from Toy Biz to like keep up with what was current, or was that like Marvel pushing you guys to include characters that they were trying to promote?
It had to be a little bit of both by that time, but earlier, like in the first days before Marvel Legends was really taking off, we didn't have to answer to Marvel very much at all. We were pretty separate. We did what we wanted to do. We were there was no such thing as quality control for us. Like it was like there was nobody going, you can't do this, and we would say we would be the deciders. We would get a sculpt. We're like, we're gonna do this character. This is the sculpt. Yeah, that sculpt's pretty good. We didn't have to send it to anybody for approvals, and it was amazing. So, working in toys, anytime you make something from another company, like when we made Lord of the Rings, every time we make a sculpt, you have to send it to New Line Cinema, so if they could say yes, we like it, we'd send it back to us, and it would take forever. But for anything we were making for Marvel characters, it was our license. We just say, yes, we're doing that. Yes, we're doing that. And it was great. It had that was really great power.
Marvel was very different back then. I mean, I was only there for like 6 months, but I remember like it was. I've been at the time. I had been in other offices that were a bit more put together. It's not the machine that it is now. I feel like Iron Man 1 was just on the horizon when
Yeah.
I was there. So I can believe that there was no oversight on these
Yeah.
figures, that you could just be nerds and do what you feel is best, because that's like
Yeah.
how a lot of it was ran.
I mean, if there was a movie coming up or a big comic book event that we knew about, we would, lean towards those for sure, because it's free marketing is always a great thing. Cross market synergy, as they call it. We that's a good thing. But we tried to put as many as we wanted to put in there. Try to get characters like, I mean, in the first wave, there's Toad. Like, why was he chosen out of the thousands and thousands of Marvel characters? Why was one of the first four Toad? Like.
Yeah, so I'm curious when because this is a random question that totally just popped into my mind. So when you're not having to get approval, when you're getting to make all of these decisions, one figure that really sticks out to me, one of my favorites in the Toy Biz Legends is Storm, and I have to admit that is the first time I had ever seen that costume as black. It's the first time
Yes.
I had ever considered it might be black. And then of course I go online and everyone's like, well, it's black and shiny, and that's why it always looks white. I mean, what is your take on that? Are you part of the team that decided no, this costume is black and not white?
It, it was always black. Back in the 70s, it was black. It was always black. And so when the cartoon came out, to us who had already loved it as a black costume, we're like, it looks very white. And then, we had the same thing going, oh, it's the light reflecting on it. So it's supposed to be, it's black, but it's light reflecting. And then they started making white costumes on everything. We're like, okay, I guess it's white, but we, we, we were just, we accepted it. But when it went back to black for us, it was like, it's black. That's what it's always been. Like,
It blew my mind. It blew my mind. I had always seen that costume as white, and then the definitive Storm figure of its day was suddenly it was colored as black, and it blew my mind.
he
It
was
blew
not
my mind
prepared for that.
too. It really did. It's so. I'm looking at the photos now. I'm sorry if I look distracted because I'm Googling Jim Lee Storm. Yeah, it blew my mind too. I think I was one of the first ones like, is that costume black as well? Like, we had that conversation in our MySpace DMs. Or on the Foosh. We got into a fight with people on the Foosh.net.
Right? Oh my God, they're silver actually.
That's silver. So Sam, you're a Toy Biz. I'm curious, was there ever a particular wave or figure that you're so proud of, even to this day you remember it and you were just like, I'm so glad I produced that.
I mean, really, the Lord of the Rings are ones I think are the most amazing stuff. So it's not really X-Men. So that
Yeah.
I'm
It's
sorry.
fine.
It's okay. Listen, it's most likely people who are listening to this are huge Lord of the Ring fans as well, especially from that era. So let's hear it.
Okay, yeah, Lord of the Rings. I just think they were all fantastic and magical, and like the horse and rider ones were my favorite. Like they had a horse. It was a ring wraith. It was
Yes.
the head was this out of it, like it wasn't. And the Sauron figure, oh my god, it was so tall, and the rings and the fingers came off. I loved that one.
That ring wraith, I was gonna say, like I think there's a flying one on like the fell beast or something
Yeah.
like that. I got that for like literally just like 2 years ago for my best friend for Christmas, and we were both sitting there just in awe of it the entire time, just like, wow,
Yeah.
this is amazing. And that toy is 20 years old now, probably.
Yeah, I love it. The only Toy Biz toy I still have is that Storm, the 12-inch doll version, like the Mohawk one. That's the only one I have.
Yeah.
She's not out. She's in a box somewhere, but yeah,
I love it.
that's my
I
favorite
love
Toy
that
Biz
doll.
toy, just because it's Storm and Mohawk. I was into it.
Pushed for the Mohawk Storm Chase variant head, because that one I did track down.
Oh, there was no need to push for that one. Like I definitely advocated. Yes, I agree. Do it. Everybody was on board for that for sure.
So speaking of ways that Toy Biz kind of changed the action figure game, one of the most enduring things that Toy Biz did that Hasbro has obviously swiped. I think McFarlane did it for a little while. I don't think they're doing it anymore, but that was the advent of the Build-A-Figure. How did that come about? Who pushed for that, and how did you get something crazy like that approved?
Well, that was the thing at the at the time we were all toy nerds, and we'd been buying like blind box things and toys imported from Japan and stuff like that. And we had tons of different things where you'd have to collect a part in this and a part in that to make something bigger. And it had to be Jesse's idea, but I don't, maybe not, because in those meetings you never knew where somebody would say something and like, oh, that's a great idea, let's try that, or let's look into that. Start do up a pitch and figure out a budget and see what it is, and somebody would just came up with it. But we definitely had a lot of those around the office before we stole the idea from somebody else, is what I'm saying. It wasn't our idea, but it wasn't a like direct steal. It was more like, it was in a different kind of thing, like a lot of them were like, keychains, and it came with something else. So at the end you could build something, and so we just took it and spiked it for toys. Approval for that though, the hardest part is the molds. Like, can we fit molds together? Can we what size, how much extra plastic can we use? So budgeting was the hardest part for that. But and they made some great decisions right off the bat. I mean, the first Sentinel.
Oh my God.
They've done bigger since then. I used to have like 3 of them too. And I'm like, I wish I still had them somewhere. I mean, in the scale to the toy, it still was too small, but it felt so awesome. It was so big and it was so chunky. It just felt like you felt like a little kid with one of those giant toys.
Yeah, it was epic. It was absolutely the Sentinel. Like I'm a Fantastic Four fan, and I love Galactus. So obviously, I was thrilled to get him first out of the gate. But that Sentinel, oh my God, as an X-Men action figure fan, I can't, because to that point, all we had was the kind of goofy one from the early 90s toy band, and again changed, was revolutionary for its time. But that Build-A-Figure, and especially the design you chose for it, the Mark Silvestri,
tomorrow. It's a unique one. It's Rover. It's not even just a Sentinel, it's Rover from Here Comes Tomorrow. It's a character in of itself.
I love it. I love it. That's one of those toys where I'm like, I gave one of mine to a friend in New York. And when I was home visiting, or when I was in New York visiting just recently, I stayed one night at his house and I went into his toy room and it was standing there. And I'm like, oh, God, that's such a good figure still. I really felt like excited to see it. Like I hadn't seen it in a long time, especially in person. So I agree. That was like a thing that for me, it was like, wow, we made that and it looks badass.
Still to this day looks badass. Like there's not a thing about it I would change.
Well, awesome. Speaking of things that I would have changed, one thing that happened to you guys, which was such a huge scandal, I remember, was the Series 11 Scarlet Witch. I don't know if you remember, but she was supposed to look a certain way. And then you mentioned this earlier, China kind of like messes with the molds, everything. Do you remember that scandal? Do you remember when that figure came in?
I remember not liking it.
No one liked it.
No one liked it. It's sometimes scheduling just ruins you, and it sucks because I was so excited for that figure. It's one of my favorite. She's one of those characters I love because she's had so many costumes and she's had so many storylines, and she's been beat up kind of like Donna Troy in the Teen Titans. One of those characters that's been beat up over and over and over again. And I love it. I love her. She has a special space in my heart. So when she finally gets a figure, like the first figure ever, and you're like, she looks terrible, but I still bought her. You know what I mean? It's like,
I bought like 20 of her. I bought 20 because she was originally not supposed to be released. She was going to be canceled, but I guess she still sort of made it out the door. I bought 20 of her, and I found her once. I was like, I paid $150 for her on eBay. And Flink at the time was like, you're crazy spending $150. And then she popped up all over. Wait, did you?
I was your defender.
Okay, you were my defender.
Makes you happy.
But in DMs, you were like, that's crazy.
It is crazy. Or time, it was crazy. Now we buy action figures at retail for $150 plus. Yeah. So,
and what you guys were saying earlier about chase figures, Lego, the little Lego man, it's not that hard to make them in variant colors. They made a Comic-Con exclusive Phoenix, like 4 or 5 years ago. She sells for $1,200 for one Lego minifigure. I'm not buying her.
I have her somewhere. I wish I have her somewhere.
Shut up.
They gave her out at
Yeah, they
New
gave
York
her
Comic
out. Mine
Con.
wasn't there. I didn't
Yeah,
get
they gave her out at
one.
New York Comic Con. I have to find. My entire apartment is in disarray. I have to go look for her now. I'm pretty sure
Shut
I have
up.
her in one of my. I'm
Well,
gonna try to
if you
find
want to
her.
sell her or you want to make a trade for something, you let me know.
Give
I
me your
got lots of art.
firstborn.
I got lots of art. I got art. I
You're,
should show you this art, but
you're so
not.
kind. Because if the tables were reversed right now, I would be like, "Bitch, remember when I gave you Mojo? Time to pay up." No, if I
Um,
find her, I'll chat with you. I'll chat with
okay,
you.
that's awesome. I'm like, oh,
But I
she's
remember when they gave her out, and she didn't even come in a box. She came like kind of
no
like in a
a
paper.
little
Yeah,
case thing. Yeah, like
yeah.
so like I'm like, come on, you're releasing one of the coolest characters in the Marvel universe as a Comic Con exclusive. You can't put her in a set, and they still have not put her in a set. It's been like 5 years. I'm like, come on, like what the? Just do it. It's not that
Give us the
difficult.
gene.
Give
Give
us
us the
Jean.
gene.
We can
I
never
can't believe
stray too
I'm
far
saying
from
that.
Jean here. We can never stray too far from Jean Grey.
Never,
Our God
never,
Queen, Jean
ever.
Grey.
So okay, so we sort of addressed the Scarlet Witch that wasn't going to come out, but then did come out, that like looked the way that she did, but uh, some that's yeah, I didn't hate her.
Unfortunate. She looked unfortunate.
She did look a little bit unfortunate, but some of the figures, some of the things that didn't ever see the light of day was like Extreme X-Men Psylocke, the Blue Wasp, the X Babies, the Henchman pack-ins, Juggernaut in his hero costume. Like what happened to these guys? They remain urban legends in
It's
the Marvel Legends collecting community.
a lot of times what would happen is like, so we're allowed to have 6 figures or 6 characters in the next line. Jesse would send out information and sculpture quotes for 7 figures, and he would just get an extra one sculpted, hoping that somebody would say, okay, you can use that in the next line because you already have it sculpted and it's done. And so we would end up getting more like we had a Balrog sculpted. It was a huge freaking action figure, but never used it. But so that happened a lot. We'd start with one and then it would just never get used. And so there was more than a legend. It was like prototypes, and there were like, there was plans to do it. We wanted X Babies so bad. Everybody in the office thought it was so cute. We wanted X Babies.
Still dream of them.
Me too. I would love them. I would love it. Barbie should do that with the little Barbie. She's got Stacy, her little sister. They should totally do a line of X Babies.
I would buy them.
I would buy them too, and then I would give them to somebody else.
You buy them, give them to me.
I still do it though, because sometimes I will still fall when I go to the store. Like, oh my god, that is so cute. Oh, I should really buy that. Like, oh, like there's a Mariah Carey pop Christmas album thing.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah,
own it.
So stupid cute. And I'm like, I want it but I want it for just this Christmas. I want to buy it, bring it home, and then as soon as Christmas is over, I'm like, okay, I got to give this to somebody else and just give it away. And I tend to do that because I'm like, I'm not going to keep it. I'm not gonna. I do it with Lego.
She comes out every Christmas.
I just want to build the Lego set. Can I build this? And then I'll give it to you already built. I'm like, do you want it?
Mariah comes out every Christmas in this house. She's a permanent fixture.
Good.
So Sam, you guys are having such a fun time. I mean, it sounds like you guys were really tight there at ToyBiz.
We were.
Obviously in 2006, 2007, there were murmurs that, Hasbro was going to acquire the license, and then it was true. And around the office, they were like, well, they're paying more than we would have ever made, stuff like that. Can you walk us through when Hasbro came in to purchase? I mean, what was the situation there? Can you sort of give us the behind the scenes peek as to what happened?
I can give you a little rear view mirror and a little because at the time we didn't know exactly why they were doing it. We were making good money. We were making awesome toys. We were selling, and we were at the top of our game. We've been making more money every single year than the year before. We're like, what are they doing? Why are they getting rid of us? It was very unsure, and they were talking about how we were going to move into other departments and how we would still work with them, and it just wasn't. We were unsure about what was going on and why. Looking back, we now know that Disney bought them, so it was a great business move. Like I said before, making toys is a risk. We made a lot of Hulk figures and they didn't sell. We had to give a lot of people money back and end up with a bunch of product that goes to like dollar stores and things like that. Losing money is not business. So having another company take all the risk and pay you no matter what. They pay you a licensing fee. They pay you if they sell anything, you still get more money. You know, if they don't sell anything, we already got the money they paid us. You know, it's a very low risk.
Win-win situation. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you know that, you know, that asset, that risk is part of your company, you'll get rid of the risk, and Disney will buy us with, you know, one less, you know, liability. And so it was all getting towards the whole Disney purchase. You know, we didn't know that. I mean, the business dudes knew that. You know, they knew they knew what stock to trade. You know what I mean? But we were uninformed. You know, like so.
Well, people always seem to assume that these mergers just happen out of the blue. You know, I remember when the Fox did. No, it's wild at how far years in advance this is.
Yes, it is not. There's no way anybody's like, well, that just happened. You're like, that's not how it works. Not, you were brainwashed because you do not know how the system works.
I don't think Disney just decided one day to wake up and spend $4 billion. Like, no, I don't.
Exactly. It wasn't. Marvel.
They weren't like, wow, that movie did really well. Let's just give them lots of money, you know, like to buy them. Yeah, no.
I mean, yeah, it takes years.
Well, so when that transfer of license happened, I think, were you guys going to do the Annihilus wave with Emma and Banshee?
Well, so that's when I left the company. I was like, I gotcha. I don't want to, we were unsure what was happening. We didn't know Disney was going to take over, and people were, you know, there was no more ToyBiz to do. And so we were doing brand assurance and things for other companies. We were still working with Hasbro because we were getting they would send us a thing, we'd approve it, say yes or no, tell them to change colors, give our direction. But then they were making the toys. And I felt like I want to go make toys still. I don't want to just approve other people's stuff. I want to be creative. That's what I love doing. So I left the company at that time. So those last few waves, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you ended up, where did you go afterwards? Because you ended up working with one of my friends, Ethan. I don't know if you remember him. And you guys were at the same company, but I'm forgetting where it was at.
It was Global Brands Group, I want to say is what it's called. Yeah. And it was, we made toys for Marvel and DC and Hello Kitty and Crayola and all the Disney and Pixar characters and SpongeBob SquarePants and all the Nickelodeon characters. We had like 60 licenses. It was crazy, going from just Marvel to 1,000 other kids shows, having to watch kids shows and going, this is I have to make a toy of this.
This is what kids are into these days.
But yeah, I don't miss that world.
Well, I'm just curious, were there, you know, we know you didn't have anything to do with those last few waves, but was there anything that you did work on or help develop that went unreleased that we still, you know, don't know about? Maybe
give us an exclusive. Was there a new X-Men box set that was supposed to come out? The Astonishing box set.
I'm not going to say anything. I don't know. I really don't. There were all kinds of. We would come up with box sets in the office, like just grab 5 figures, going, "Hey, what do you think of this?" So we'd lay them on a piece of cardboard and put a fake window over it, so it looks like a package, you know. And that's how it worked. You know, we'd go through a drawer, going, "Oh, that's like 4 or 5 years ago. We could get that the other variant version of this and use that in the box set," you know. And we would just lay them out. And so, you know, there were ideas for thousands of box sets, you know. But yeah, I don't know what happened to us. Sorry.
No, why would you apologize? So the other thing, and I can't remember if we talked about this before we got on the Zoom officially or once we hit record, but I remember when we were talking one day in the office, probably around Mary Sprouse's office. Do you remember her, like the HR person?
Yeah.
But you were telling me, and I remember this conversation because it was mind-blowing to me, that when you're doing these figures, you're basing them off of some actors and their likenesses. And obviously we have Angel, who looks like Brad Pitt from the wave you guys were all on. And you told me something about Emma Frost looking like Marcia Cross and all this
Um,
stuff. So was that an approach you guys had around the
it wasn't
office?
on, it wasn't on purpose, like going, but we did that for other series too. Like David Vonner, one of the other designers on the floor, in one of the he was War Machine's face. You know, it was
Mm.
just he worked on the figure and like we made him his face. Damon Nee was one of the other designers, and he was in one of the Lord of the Rings figures. He was one of the elf guards, and we're like we would just put somebody's face in there, and we did people we knew and we did celebrities. So this is a beautiful woman. Copy this face. Like this is kind of what we're looking. If we had ever done a Storm since then, we would have said, look, this is Iman, like this is her face. This is what she's supposed to be, this giant supermodel, like, we gave whoever we were liking at the time too. So it was just fun for us, but it wasn't like, look, we were never told specifically to look for celebrities, and we can never make them look exactly like them because somebody might sue us. But
No lawsuits, please.
No
yeah,
lawsuits, please.
it's not
Chill.
worth the risk.
Chill.
So, with a little distance between now and wrapping your time with Toy Biz, how do you think the toy industry has changed since Marvel Legends existed and just since you have left that industry?
Like, I think it's becoming such a weird market because I feel like less little kids play with actual toys. It's really
agreed.
weird. It is
My
weird.
nephews do not.
My nieces, same thing. They don't.
Yeah, it is. I feel like it's sort of a dying industry in a weird way. So it'll only be collectors, and that's why you're getting like the He-Man series that are out right now. Like they come out exclusive to adult collectors. You have to order it ahead of time. They know they're only making 3,000 of them instead of like 300,000 or 500,000 like we did for some of our figures. Like and so prices will go up because if we're only making the prices go down the more you make. And so when you have to pay for a mold that costs $30,000 to make one figure, then you have to amortize that cost into all the other figures when you sell them. So the prices go up, and people are like, why is this one figure, $40? I'm like, well, there's not enough people buying it.
Sam, last question.
All right.
Marvel Legends, 20 years. Why do you think the line still resonates with fans till this day?
Well, because X-Men is like, it really is.
Right there. That's the best answer right there.
All right, good. But X-Men, it really is. They're a family. We have emotional connection to them as well as adventures with them, and it's a family. It's a giant family, and you just want to keep building onto it. So it's amazing. That's the reason the toy line works.
And people like us are addicted. That certainly helps.
Oh, for sure.
We are very addicted. We've stolen like childhoods because we're not letting anyone play with toys anymore because we're pre-ordering all the figures before they hit market.
Like, I don't want to shame anybody saying that don't collect, but I gave it up for totally different reasons, and I'm like, I don't want anybody to feel bad that I was saying, you don't need this stuff. I still don't think you need it, but if you want it, do it. I'm not shaming you. Live your life, girl.
Oh yeah,
I'm living mine.
I feel there will come a day. There will come a day because, like you mentioned, you move with it so many times, it sort of becomes a burden. And I don't foresee it being anytime soon, but I do. I can definitely see how there might come a day where my collection will start to decrease rather than just explode like it is now, and start maybe travel a little lighter. I don't know. We'll see. But I totally get like everything you said completely resonates. Like it makes sense to me. You get to a certain point in your life where you want to be free of these things and do new things and new opportunities and welcome all of that in rather than carrying around the same old stuff. There is a philosophical angle to that. I totally get it.
Sam, where can folks at home connect with you? Legos, Marvel Legends, you're an artist, you do Art Basel. Where can people blow up your DMs?
Instagram is probably the best place. I accept everybody as their messages, where it gives you like, this person wants to message you. I'm like, of course they can message me. Why would I say no? Samuel Hatmaker. That's it. That's easiest. You can go to samuelhatmaker.com. I don't know if it's that exciting. It's a lot of my like it's mostly Lego work. There's none of my other portfolio. I don't even know where to find my other portfolio. It's not. I don't keep up with it. Like I make movie set pieces here, and so I have like this past week I worked on Beauty and the Beast Live. I was making Gaston's chair with like giant horns and furs over it and stuff like that. And I'm like, I barely ever take a picture of the final product. I don't post those online. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just not very. I hate social media. I'm not good at it. So like,
We obviously need to have you on again because we didn't even touch like everything we could have spoken about.
oh, I've got a lot of stories. I'm an old person.